You just briefed reporters at the White House about this issue, and you made clear that Speaker Pelosi has precedent for this trip and that there has been no change in U.S.-China policy. Why then did President Biden suggest a couple of weeks ago that the U.S. military thought this might be a bad time for her to go?
Well, I think the president was answering a question he got from a reporter that surrounded the context of the kinds of information we give to Speaker Pelosi before she travels. We met with her staff and with her at various levels before she made this trip to make sure that she could make the best decisions on her own, that she had all the information and context she needed, and the president was referencing that. But it is up to the speaker. She gets to decide what her travel itinerary looks like. The president respects that.
And I realize that you are not confirming this trip, but if she does, in fact, show up, you mentioned the fact that there were live fire exercises conducted by China last night, and you said that the country is positioning itself to potentially take further steps in the coming days. I spoke earlier, Admiral, today with Defense Secretary Mark Esper, who suggested that the USS Ronald Reagan was sent to the region in case Speaker Pelosi did visit Taiwan. Is that accurate?
No, Ronald Reagan is already forward deployed to the region. Her activities in the South China Sea were long planned. We keep a vigilant posture in the Indo-Pacific because we need to, but it was not related to any potential visit by Speaker Pelosi.
Admiral Kirby, we know, of course, that you've just said that the United States has no interest in increasing tensions over Taiwan, but this does increase tensions. And what, therefore, do you have to do about it?
I would let the Chinese speak for the degree to which they feel this is increasing tensions. I would just remind that a Speaker of the House has gone before in the mid-90s.
25 years ago, though, Admiral. 25 years ago.
Members of Congress routinely go to Taiwan, as is their right. This doesn't, if she goes, and I'm not confirming whether she will or not, it's not going to violate any sovereignty issues. It's not going to violate territorial integrity, as the Chinese spokesman alluded to. It will simply be a move in keeping, very consistent with American policy now for decades. Nothing's changed about our adherence to the One China policy, and nothing has changed about our commitments to helping Taiwan's self-defense under the Taiwan Relations Act. And the Speaker's trip is in the context of that very stable, very solid, very consistent American policy.
How do you, from a national security perspective, prepare if China follows through with what they've said of there will be consequences to this?
I'm not going to speculate here or hypothesize, and I'm certainly not going to say anything that gets ahead of where we are right now. What we said today was we're watching this very, very closely, and we have indications that the Chinese might take some actions in a military way to protest a trip by the speaker. They can talk about what they want to do. What I wanted to make clear today was that we are going to make sure that if the speaker decides to go to Taiwan, she can do so safely and securely. And number two, that we are able and continue to able to meet our ample security commitments in the region. The responsibilities that we have, the president takes that very, very seriously. But look, there's no reason for this to come to blows. There's no reason for this to erupt into some sort of conflict. There's no reason for the Chinese to use a potential visit by the Speaker of the House as some sort of pretext to escalate tensions higher than they already are. And I would remind you that in recent days and weeks, it is the Chinese side that has, through their rhetoric and their activities, including this live fire exercise, the ones that are escalating the tensions.
What are some of those other indications that you're seeing?
Well, again, I think I laid these out at the briefing. We're seeing indications that they could conduct missile launches. We're seeing indications that they could, in a broad way, move to violate Taiwan's air defense identification zone, or do operations across the midline in the Taiwan Strait. There could be more naval exercises. I mean, we're seeing indications of a lot of things. And we obviously know that there could be things they do post a trip by the speaker, if the speaker goes, to intimidate or to coerce or to otherwise try to punish Taiwan for allowing a Speaker of the House to go.
Admiral Kirby, you've referred a few times, as you did in the briefing today, about consultations that the administration had with Speaker Pelosi's office on the possibility that this may happen. Did you discuss any sort of overt actions or news conferences or any activities that she might be reluctant to conduct while there so as to not inflame tensions? Does the White House have any input on her activities while she is there?
Our job is to make sure she has all the information she needs and to make sure from a security perspective that she can make a trip wherever it is safely and securely. The speaker decides what she's going to do, where she's going to go, what she's going to say when she's on the ground. We simply provided her information and context so that she could make decisions about her travel.
General Milley has suggested that the Pentagon is prepared if she decides to go to provide whatever security is necessary. Can you just clarify for our listeners and viewers that while I understand the White House is not behind this trip or making decisions on it, it is in fact the administration that would provide her transportation and security?
She routinely travels aboard U.S. military transportation aircraft. She is on this trip. So, of course, we help her get where she's going. And depending on where she's going, we might also be called in to help make sure that she can do so safely and securely. I'm not going to talk about that on TV, what those protocols might be for a trip like this. I can just tell you that we are 100% committed to making sure she has all the information she needs and that when she travels, she can do so in a safe and secure way.
Of course, for our radio audience, we are indeed speaking with the National Security Council Coordinator, John Kirby. And Admiral Kirby, I just want to go back to, you said very eloquently, there is precedent for this. And yes, there has been 25 years ago, but also a lower level U.S. lawmaker just went back in November. And that too prompted a military response from China. You've said, of course, that this would be irresponsible for China to react in such a way. But is there any way in which you think the U.S. is currently being irresponsible?
I think that we are being everything in terms of responsible about this trip. Every approach that we've taken has been a responsible one. The speaker decides to travel, we make sure she is informed, and again, she can do so safely and securely. And by coming out today, as I did, and laying it out for the American people and for a global audience, what we're seeing, what we're hearing, and how we are treating this potential trip, I think that is very responsible. And making it clear, again, publicly. We did it last week when the president talked to President Xi. It was important to do it again today. That is, in terms of American policy, there's been no changes. So there's no excuse, there's no reason to up the ante here or to increase tensions. There's no change to American policy. And if the speaker goes, it would be very consistent with that same policy.
Is there a change in American policy when it comes to $300 billion in tariffs that we still have on Chinese goods?
The president is still working with his team to decide if he'll do anything about the tariff regimen and if it needs to be changed, how it will be changed. I'm not going to get ahead of the president. He's still working his way through that.
Admiral, among the possible actions that you predicted or warned of, I should say, in the briefing was a large-scale incursion into Taiwan's airspace. If China did do something like that, would there be a U.S. military response?
What I said was a potential large-scale incursion into their air defense identification zone. That's different than their national, not national. That's different than airspace. It's the air defense identification zone. And again, I don't want to speculate about U.S. military activities one way or another. We were going to watch this very, very closely. There's no reason for it to erupt into conflict, and I don't want to speculate beyond that.